Hello and welcome to another edition of the Stew with JT Brew here on Fantasy in Frames, college football betting show, bowl games, playoffs. We got it all ahead. A couple games going on tonight. We'll jump into those real quick and we'll talk about all the action that's going on next week. Stick with us. You're in the stew.
You up on trades and wire moves, you ain't designed to lose. Find you jumping over seemingly nothing, racking up points, makes the game a little more fun to watch. Can drop release, we started with the mock draft and now we making a mockery of the leaderboard. Quite obviously not a scrub, so start an institute, make evaluations like a commissioner do. It's to the point your wife make you watch in a different room. Update your roster and pick and choose when you get some news. Not much that we enjoy more than sifting through new statistics to make it to our end zones through different routes. Universities, institutes, down to homies who click in groups. I introduce you to the Stew with JT Brew.
Welcome, one and all. A special Saturday edition of the Stew with JT Brew. Usually we're going Tuesday nights, but with New Year's Eve, everything else going on, we wanted to get in on some of this bowl action. Sorry we couldn't get to it this morning as we things are a little crazy. We're getting it tonight. We're getting in before these last couple night games come on. Welcome in my co-host Ben Dyer. Benny, how you doing, man?
Good, man. Bowls are underway. We've got them all going. I think last time we talked, it was pre-playoffs. We've got all the first round games in the books. So I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about that. But yeah, it's been a pretty good bowl season so far. A little, the playoff games weren't ultra exciting, mostly blowouts when it was all said and done. But I think these second round games are going to be much better.
Yeah, I think these second round games are going to be really good. Interesting. Then before we get to the playoffs, let's talk about all the bowl action. We got a couple games going on tonight, a couple games on Monday and Tuesday, and then a few at the end of the week. Let's go bowl games first before we get going there. Our buddy Toast Clark jumping in here saying, let's go Buffs. Absolutely. I got my Colorado sweatshirt on today. My niece who goes to Colorado is actually coming over to watch the game. So we're trying to knock the show out before the game starts. She's coming over. She's goes to CU. Big game tonight between them, Benny. Let's just talk about them first. Let's get to the Colorado game. Big game, 3-point favorite against BYU. This is a matchup of Big 12 teams that didn't actually play during the regular season. So kind of a weird thing. You don't usually see this two teams in the same conference playing in a bowl game, but with the conferences being so big and everyone not playing each other, now they're actually getting to see each other in a bowl game as both these teams barely missed out on the Big 12 championship game and a chance to make the playoffs. So both these teams real upset that they didn't make the playoffs, but as far as that word, most guys are expected to play. So a lot of people have opted out. All the Colorado players are supposed to be coming in. So outside of any transfers or anything like that, Shedeur Sanders is supposed to play. Travis Hunter is supposed to play. Shiloh Sanders is supposed to play. So we should have a pretty good group here, that's always the big thing here with the transfer portal these days is who's actually going to play in these games. Sometimes we don't know. I'm hearing everything that Colorado's going to play. I am all over the Buffs tonight. They're -3. I've got them in a couple alternate parlays, but the Buffs are my pick tonight at -3 against BYU. They say everybody's going to play. Obviously, it's the last time these guys are going to be together. Is Sanders head off the NFL? So is Travis Hunter. Who knows what Deion's doing? He says he's staying, but we'll see what happens there. I'm all over him on this. We got another comment. Jerry jumps in and says Colorado is going to show out tonight. I totally agree with you, Jerry. I think Colorado is going to absolutely turn it on tonight. I love the Buffs tonight. I am all over them on that. Benny, what are your thoughts? Because I've got a JT Parlay play of the day monster one on this Colorado game. But let's talk about your thoughts before I get into that bet.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think Colorado's going to roll if they do what they've said they're going to do all week, which is play all these guys. I mean, they're not going to go out there and just not, it's prime time. It's showtime, and it's definitely the game of the day. I mean, there's the Miami game going on right now. It's pretty good, I guess, but I mean, everybody wants to watch Colorado. It's got that star power, and I think BYU will come out and be ready to play, but I just don't know that they have, they don't have the guys to stick around with these Colorado guys. But I've heard some people say that maybe some of these Colorado guys are going to play, but not play the whole game because they're worried about injuries, blah, blah, blah. But I don't know. They get out there and they get into the game, and it's a pretty good game. I can't see, as a player, they're not going to want to come out of that game. You know what I mean? There's just no way.
I agree with you. To me, that makes no sense. Like, why would you play a guy like a half?
I don't
be like, we're pulling him out for injury. If you're worried about injury, why are you even playing then?
Yeah, exactly.
My thing, if I'm Colorado, I'm on these guys. Obviously, a lot of these guys have a shot in the NFL. But my thing is, I'd want to end out the year on a 10 and go 10-3 for my coach, for my school. One last game together with all these guys. Yeah. I would want to get that win and go 10-3. Yeah. I mean, 10-win seasons are so rare, even though they play more games now, playing 12, and then you also have the opportunity for the bowl game. So, I mean, playing 12,
it's a big thing.
Winning double-digit games is tough in college. It is tough, and you don't get double-digit wins very often. For me, I'd want to play out. I'd want to ball out and play the whole game. I mean, as a competitor, unless we're way up.
Yeah, if they're throttling them, then it's okay, but
pulling guys in, but I'm like, how could you want to go out of a close game, like late in the game? I don't see it. I think Colorado's going to come out and want to really prove themselves, especially with all the hate on Travis Hunter winning the height, all things around them. Now Shedeur, he's playing for the number 1 pick or the number 1 QB in the NFL draft. I think there's going to be a lot of eyes on this game to see how he kind of handles it. I think there's a lot to play for if you're Colorado. These bowl games have kind of got pushed to the wayside in a lot of ways, but you've seen certain teams have come out and they've wanted to play. I think it matters. The certain teams, certain programs, when you can get a double digit, 10 wins. I mean, we're talking about a team that went 1-11 2 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. Last time Colorado won 10 games was probably with Cordell Stewart days,
it's been a long time, long time. So I think they come out. I think they're going to have a big one. I'm all over Colorado. I'm going to give you, usually I wait till the end of the show to give me my JT Parlay play of the day, but it's an all Buffaloes same game parlay. So I'm going to jump in here. I'm going to roll this one out for you guys right now. So this is, and I'll have a few more. We're going to go a few more JT Parlay plays of the day. So this is my play of the day on the Colorado game. I'm taking Colorado money line. I'm taking the alternate over point total at 44.5. I'm taking Shedeur Sanders over 300 passing yards. I'm taking Shedeur with 3 passing touchdowns. I'm taking Travis Hunter 80+ receiving yards and a touchdown. LeJonte Wester 60+ receiving yards, and I'm taking Will Shepherd 20+ yard reception. So I'll say that again to everybody listening, just so you know, this is a plus 762 on FanDuel right now. Colorado money line, alt line on the over 44.5. Shedeur Sanders 300+ passing yards. Shedeur Sanders 3+ passing touchdowns. Travis Hunter 80 yards receiving plus an anytime touchdown. Wester 60+ receiving yards, and Will Shepherd a 20+ yard reception. Currently sitting at 762 on FanDuel. If you want to push that up just a hair and get that up closer to 1,000, take Colorado -3 instead of the money line. You also don't have to push. I pushed the alt line down about 10 points. So it's about 54 right now. So I took it down to 44. But if you want to take it like 48 or something like that, you could easily push this up closer to 1,000. Same thing with Travis Hunter. If you want to take him or Wester a little more receiving yards, that would push it up. But I've got that in right now at plus 762. I'll throw that one on my Twitter as well for everybody.
I like it.
That is my JT Parlay play of the day on that one. So getting in early on the action. Jerry jumped back in and says he's going big on Colorado. Jerry, I agree with you. I got Colorado on a bunch of parlays today, and I am leaning hard. I'm thinking hard about going big, real big on Colorado in this game. I feel really good about them. I went big last night on Syracuse and my boys got it done. They came through, got down early. Was an ugly game against Washington State, playing basically an entire new team, as so many guys had transferred, their coaches gone, played a new quarterback. Syracuse got off to a rough start as they were at the end. It was almost 18.5 was the line. It just kept going up all week. I jumped in at 13.5. I also jumped in at 17. So I got a push on that bet. I won the 13.5, and I live bet minus 9.5 and live bet 14. So got both of those last night. Only one I did was the push at minus 17, and they gave up a touchdown with 15 seconds left in the game when they were up 24, or I would have hit that one as well. So that was a nice one for the Qs. And see, Syracuse the same way. They had some guys that are looking to go in the NFL, but they had a brand new head coach, a team that had not played well in the last couple years, and everybody came out and played for them. And they came out and played hard. So that's what I'm hoping I see out of Colorado tonight. That's what you want out of these teams in the bowl game, is to come out and play tough. So that's the others. Let's get to the other game tonight. So again, we're all in on Colorado -3. I'm going big on them. I think that over is going to hit, but if you want to move it down the alternate line, I did that as well. The other night game tonight is Army -14 versus Louisiana. Over under in that is 44.5. Benny, I'm liking Army. I've moved this. Depending on where you look at it, it's 13.5, it's 14, it's 13.5, it's 14. It's right in there. I took it at 13 in an alt line on a parlay with Colorado tonight. I also have NC State, which is now currently down. I think East Carolina just scored. So if you are an NC State fan tonight and you want to take NC State and you haven't bet on that game yet, now is the time to jump in and live bet. If you want to live bet right now, you got NC State was a 7-point favorite to start that game. They're down 7-0 with about 4 minutes left in the third. So now's the time to jump in and live bet that Wolfpack if you think they're going to come back in the game. I like the Wolfpack. I'm probably going to jump back in here. If this line stays low, I'm going to jump in and take them. I also, if you're looking for another live bet in that NC State game, I like Bailey for an anytime touchdown. CJ Bailey, their quarterback, like him a lot. I think he could get a rushing touchdown in this one. So that's the one. Jerry jumping in here. He's saying he is taking Louisiana +14. I like it. For some reason, I feel like Army's going to finish out strong here. I don't love the 14. That's why I offlined it down to 13, but I could definitely see taking the 14 on that one. I like where your head's at there. And he says, love NC State money live bet right now. That's what I'm about, Jerry. That's what I'm saying. Jump on right now. Get on that live bet on NC State as they just got down 7-0. I think they're going to come back in this game. I like NC State a lot in this one. They're down early, but we got a lot of football left in that one. So now's the time, if you like NC State, to jump on it. Just looked on, they're -125, and it's -1.5 right now on the spread at -110. So they were 7.5 to start the game. You can get them at -1.5, which I love with these OT rules and having to go the 2-point conversion. I'm in on that, because I'm like, you can get to that 1.5 is nice, because you could win it by 2 if it gets the OT. So I'm jumping in on that right now, Benny. I just jumped in on NC State live -1.5. I'm going to take the -1.5 there on the live bet. I like that one a lot. Benny, any thoughts for you on this Army Louisiana game? This was a little tough. I didn't know what to think about Louisiana.
I like Army. But
like Army was gonna finish the year strong.
I mean, Louisiana Tech. Army's just one of those solid teams that, obviously they don't play anybody that great. Louisiana Tech doesn't have the toughest schedule either. Army's one of those teams, if you're not used to playing that type of team, it makes it tough. Kind of saw that with that Navy game yesterday. I mean, it's like you can stay in your lanes and make all the right reads, but then the one time you don't, you over pursue, and boom, you got the quarterback straight up the middle off to the races. So these triple option type teams, I mean, they run it to perfection. It's really tough for defenses that don't play it and don't face it very often. So I know that they got extra time because it's a bowl game. They've had a few weeks to prepare, but I don't know, man. I just think Army's that's a good football team. It's one of the best teams Army's had in a long time. 14.5 is a lot of points, but
you also got Louisiana Tech coming in at 5-7. Only got into the bowl game because I think someone else did it, so they had to have somebody fill out. So usually you have to be 6-6. They got in at 5-7. Defensively, they've been pretty good this year. They're only giving up 20 points a game, but Army's giving up 16. They're only scoring 22. Army's scoring 31. I just think here's the thing is I just think Louisiana Tech's going to struggle to score in this game.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that's what's going to. I think Army's defense looks really good. I think you're going to struggle to score. And again, when you're not used to playing these option teams, it can be real rough. And usually, Army has to use the option because they don't have as much talent. I think Army easily has as much talent as Louisiana Tech does. So now you have the option on top of that. And I think they got the best player in Bryce Daly. So, I mean, to me, I just like where Daly's at. I think he wants to have a big comeback game. That loss to Navy, I think, really hurt Army. I think they thought they were going to win that one, and Navy put it to them. So I think they want to have a big bounce back and finish. As this would be one of the best years in Army history. Is they're 11-1. This makes them 12-1 overall season. I mean, that's fantastic.
Yeah, and historically, the academy schools do pretty well in bowl games because they don't usually have kids transferring. They don't have, they're going to play the same game they play every single time. And that's a little bit of a help, I think, in a bowl game situation because they just only know one way to play, and that's how they're going to play. So I think.
And currently, I got it pulled up here. If you're looking at the screen, Army is now at 14.5, as that one is moved up slightly on DraftKings. If you're on DraftKings,
yeah, 14.5. It's going up a little bit. Yeah, I lean Army there for sure.
If you like a prop bet, I like the over rushing yards for Bryson Daly, and I like the 2+ rushing touchdowns for him. He has been phenomenal on the ground this year. 1,500 yards, 29 TDs, got shut out against Navy. You can take it for one touchdown, but I got to look it up. I think it was -900 for him to get one touchdown. So it's like, so you got to pretty much, if you want to take the over yards and the 2+ touchdowns, the one thing that Army is hurting is they're missing their running back. He did enter the transfer portal. So Uday, I think, is out this game. So that makes me even lean on Bryson Daly even more. They did have their running back actually did transfer. So he entered the portal. It is pretty rare. It is very rare. He had a great year this year. Udo was over 1,100 yards and 10 touchdowns this year. But like I said, Daly over 1,529 touchdowns. Jump on him. Little same game parlay. Move that line down a little bit. Take him on the money line. Take Army at like maybe -10 or -13, and then take him 2+ touchdowns and the over rushing yards. So those are both possibilities there as well. A couple more games. We're going to move into next week games. Those are the two games going on tonight. Obviously, like we said, there's a couple games currently in action right now as NC State now in the red zone against East Carolina. They're down 7-0. Miami of Ohio's up 9-3 on Colorado State. I avoided that game. I just didn't know what was going to happen there at all. So that was a game I just stayed away from, and I'm not going to lie bet that at all. Miami currently up 38-35 with 2:20 left in the third quarter. And that was another one they talked about, is Cam Ward going to play the whole game or if he's only going to play half the game, which to me, that didn't make a lot of sense. Go out there, prove yourself, have a good game. Yeah. Of course, Damian Martinez, who I had in CFF and C2C everywhere, is having his best game of the year. 12 carries, 166 yards, and a touchdown right now for Miami. Big game for him currently, but so that's a Miami game if you want that one. Yeah, it's that one's a close game right now. So if you're looking on that one, Live, it's a 3-point game. Miami currently with the ball in their own field position. So I'm going to keep an eye on that one. If that one gets back and Iowa State gets up again, I might try to live bet Miami in that one.
It's already went over too.
Yeah, that one was a super high scoring game right at the beginning. They were going off. Before we get to the playoff games, Benny, let's discuss the other bowl games. Let's jump in here, talk about a couple of the other bowl games before we get into the playoff games. So Monday, we got my team Missouri Tigers currently sitting at -2.5. It's been going back and forth from 3.5 to 2.5. Over under really low in this one, 40.5. Missouri has lost a couple guys in the portal. Luther Burden is going to the NFL draft. I think he has said he is out in this game for Missouri. So obviously that one hurts them a little bit. I think Missouri wants to finish out with a 10-win season. I think it'll be huge for them to get to 10-3, be back-to-back win seasons. They've got quite a few seniors on this team that want to finish out strong, and guys that came over. I like Missouri in this game. It's a decent amount. It should be pretty even travel wise with it being in Nashville with Iowa and Missouri fans, but I like Missouri in this one. I've seen it go back and forth. I've seen a lot of people were on Missouri early, then kind of started sneaking over and taking Iowa. I'm biased on this one, as you know, as I'm a Mizzou alum and I'm a Mizzou fan, but I think Mizzou comes out strong. I think they want to win and get to 10 for this year. I think they felt like they were right there on the verge of the playoffs, just missing the playoffs. And I think they want to prove something and finish out with a 10-win season.
Yeah, I definitely lean Missouri here. I think unless Iowa can really drag them into the mud and just play one of those really grinder kind of super low scoring games, I think Missouri definitely has an edge if they can avoid getting into that kind of game. And then I don't know if you heard anything with Iowa. I'm assuming their big running back is planning on playing, and
so that's the other question too: is Caleb Johnson playing or not? I haven't heard 100% either way whether he was playing or he wasn't playing. So that's another one that's a little bit, that's a toughie there. Obviously, if he doesn't play, that really hurts Iowa. He was pretty much their offense this year. He had 1,500 yards rushing. Their quarterback had 1,000 yards passing.
Going into the draft, right? So I mean,
yes, he is definitely going into the draft. 1,500 yards, 21 touchdowns this year. He right now will be interesting to see what he does during the draft combine season. But I know a lot of guys, a lot of big college fans that are huge on him and that they think he should be running back 2 or 3 in this next draft behind JT. So he's right up there. I mean, he's got a shot to be, I would say, late second, early third round pick in the NFL draft. Yeah. I definitely think he has a shot to be top 3 to 5 running backs in next year's loaded draft class.
Yeah, that would be my only concern if you're back in Iowa, is keep an eye on him and whether or not, he's going to sit because of, injury situation or whatever. It doesn't seem like something Iowa would do, but these guys they gotta protect themselves, in that kind of circumstance. So, but yeah,
Missouri's defense has been pretty good. I like Missouri as a team. I think, Cook is going to want to come out and finish off his career with a win. He's just a gutsy guy. I just think I like Missouri. Jerry agrees with me, which I love it. Thanks, Jerry. He says Mizzou covers. I like it. The other big game. So let's jump into the New Year's Eve games. A huge one here in my family. My mom's family is all from Alabama, then moved to Michigan. So they're all Crimson Tide and Wolverine fans. So they're divided on who they're rooting for in this one. Currently, the line is up to 13.5 for Alabama as the favorite, over under 43.5. This is the early game, New Year's Eve, getting us started 11 a.m. game right off the bat. Who are you liking in this one? I am leaning Bama. I just don't know how Michigan competes. I just don't see enough offense from them. I know their defense has kept them in games. I just don't know if they have enough to stop Alabama. Even with Alabama, of course, losing a bunch of guys in the transfer portal, I still think they've got enough in this one. It's like you could see Michigan mucking it up just enough to keep it close. But it feels like a game that Alabama should run away with.
Yeah, this line's actually come down. It was 14.5 most of this last week or two. And I kind of was leaning Michigan just because the way they ended the season. And I just feel like this game probably means a little more to them because, they did end fairly strong and they kind of got a little momentum. And they're like, man, if we could almost salvage the season if we could come into this bowl game and beat a team like Alabama, it would be it would be huge for the program considering, the season they had, especially early, man, they were so bad for the first half of the season. So I don't know. I was just kind of leaning Michigan just purely on, momentum. And then I thought Michigan, the game was going to mean a lot more to them. Like Alabama is probably still mad they weren't in the playoff. And then a bunch of kids hopped in the portal and there's just, I don't know. I could see them coming into this game like, I'm not saying they're not going to play hard because they always do, but I don't know. They're just they may not have that same kind of edge that Michigan does, but Michigan would, like you said, that they'd have to muck it up and just really hang in there until the end, and then you just got to hope you can cover a couple touchdowns. I don't think they're going to win the game, but they could keep it within a couple scores though. I think.
And it'll be interesting to see if Michigan running back Khalil Mullins actually plays in this game. I just saw that he announced he's entering the draft. He was their leading rusher this year with 948 yards and 12 touchdowns. So no word on him whether he's actually playing in the game, but I did see he just announced that he was going to the draft. He's coming off a big game against Ohio State. He had 32 carries, 116 yards, and a touchdown against Ohio State. So that'll be interesting to see kind of what happens there with him. I'm going to keep an eye on this one, but right now for me, that seems like a ton of points, but I just got to lean Bama. I have to. I don't think Michigan has enough. Jerry's jumping in here. He says, I side with Bama. That's a stay away game for me. I tell you what, Jerry, I think, man, you're right. It's like, I feel like I should be taking Bama, but even if I do, I'm sprinkling a little on it. I'm not super confident. I could see Michigan, like you said, Benny, coming out, playing super hard and keeping it close. I mean, those are two storied programs. So to me, that is a tough game. I'm not sure I'm jumping in that. If I do, it might be a teaser somewhere. Later games that day, we got Louisville minus 2.5 against Washington, over under 49.5. Benny, either of these teams jumping out at you in this game? Anything you like, you don't like? This one's a toss up for me.
It's a toss up.
I don't know if I'm betting on this game. I think it should be a good game, but I don't know if I'm putting points on this. Putting any money on this one. Yeah,
I don't have there's nothing in this game that I know that would tell me to go one way or the other. I mean, some of these games, certain things are going on, or you have a feeling like one team is going to play harder than the other, because that's kind of what this bowl season stuff is all about. But this one, I think both teams are, as far as I know, they're both going to have everybody. They're both going to play to win this game. And I think it's a pretty even matchup. So I'm just, unless somebody has some info out there that I want to fill me in on, I'm probably staying away from this one.
Yeah, unless I hear somebody tell me a good reason to take one of these teams, I'm probably staying away from this one right now. That again, when I see a game like that, I feel like it go either way.
Anyway.
Oh, Jerry's getting us. He says minus 2.5. Diehard Cardinals fan though. Hey, you know better than anybody, Jerry. If you think they're going to stick in there, I might just sprinkle a little bit, just as Jerry said so. I might throw a little bit on them then. I like it. Thanks, Jerry, for jumping in. I appreciate it. I might jump on a little 2.5 there if he says so. Here's the other one that surprises me, Benny. A 2:30 game. This is Central Time here on these. If you guys are looking at these, LSU is a plus 3.5 against Baylor. LSU been up and down. Guys entering the transfer portal, entering the NFL draft. They still have Garrett Nussmeier, who's coming back. I was pumped to hear that he was making that decision. I think he has a shot to be QB1 in next year's draft class. So I'm glad to see that he's coming back, because I think he just needs that one more year under his belt, as he's been phenomenal this year. 3,700 yards passing, 26 TDs. The 11 picks is a little high, but he also had a lot of games he was trying to basically carry them to wins. But I like him a lot. Baylor's been playing well. Baylor has played really well down the stretch. Yeah. Initially, just looking at this off the team names and what I followed this year, I'm leaning LSU, but I tell you what, Baylor is on an absolute tear. So Baylor lost to Colorado 38-31. and that Hail Mary pass at the end of the game for Colorado, which is first they dropped one, and then they hit the next one, which was one of the wildest things I've ever seen in my life. Great game, 38-31, lost that one. Came back, beat BYU 34-28, then beat Iowa State, all three teams playing today, 43-21. After those three losses, they lost all three of those teams, came back, hammered Texas Tech, beat Oklahoma State by 10, beat TCU by 3, beat West Virginia by 14, beat Houston by 10, and then finished out with a really impressive game against Kansas, who was on a run 45-17 in that one. So they're playing really well. I mean, that's 6 straight wins for Baylor to finish out the season. They played everybody else tough. Unless I'm obviously missing out on something that Baylor's the favorite here. But I like LSU. I'm probably, if I'm jumping on here and going to throw a parlay together for these games, I'm probably going to take LSU plus 3.5, take Louisville minus 2.5, and then also take the points at Missouri and take the cover, and then maybe tease down Bama and take a 4-team parlay there. That might be what I do, or maybe even take a tease LSU up to like 9.5, tease down Bama, tease Louisville. I might do that. So that's something I'm going to have to work through in my mind. What do you think, Benny? Do you like LSU or Baylor here?
Man, LSU. You know, LSU's been my nemesis all year.
I mean,
so
LSU has killed us so much this year. I should be hating on them big time. How many times they haven't covered up for us this year?
And the line is, like you said, it's a little fishy because, I mean, they're almost begging you to take LSU when they got 3.5 sitting there, and it's like you can get the field goal and the hook. So I don't know, that makes me a little weary. That's a little bit fishy that they like Baylor that much. But
I know. I think I'm going to have to dive into a little research. I'm going to have to look up some LSU stories from some of the beat writers and see what's going on there to see if everybody's who's playing and who's not, because I feel like I want to take LSU there, but I might be missing something.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm going to have to look at it, look into it a little bit, but I don't know. I'd love to bet against LSU if I can, but I feel like if I do that, for sure LSU will just come out, and all their freshmen that didn't play all year will play and just play out of their minds, and they'll have all these 5-star recruits that didn't hardly play throughout the season just come in and play the game of their lives. So I don't know, man. I'm gonna have to think about that one. I'll just have to kind of see what we can find out and then go with the gut at the end of the day on this one.
We're going to skip over the playoff games. We're going to come back to those. So real quick, as I got it up on the screen, if you're looking. So that's why I skipped over the college playoff games. We're going to talk about the rest of these bowl games real quick before we get in them. So now on January 2nd, January 3rd, there's a couple games on Thursday, Friday, Saturday next week. Ole Miss minus 17 against Duke. 51.5 the over-under. As far as I know, Ole Miss has a lot of guys playing in this game. I know they've had quite a few guys transfer, a couple guys going to the NFL. I think Jackson Dart and some of those guys are playing. If Jackson Dart's in, I'm in. I know Duke has transfers all over the place. I'm worried about who's actually playing this game for Duke. I know Ole Miss has burned us a few times after they were just absolutely covering for us constantly to start the year. I think I like Ole Miss in this game. I'm going to alt line this probably down to like 14 or 13 and throw it in a parlay. But I think Ole Miss. I was like, Lane Kiffin. He's got some guys have been dying to play all year. He's going to try to run it up if he can. Duke has been really solid the last couple of years, but quite a few guys, including their quarterback, going in the transfer portal. That makes me nervous. I think I'm on Ole Miss in this game.
Yeah, I'm with you. I like Ole Miss. It's a lot of points. It's the only thing that makes me nervous, but Ole Miss is the kind of team that will, if they run it up, they're not going to, hold back. They will keep running it up. So,
yep.
If they get into blowout land, that you're not going to have to worry about them taking the gas off the pedal. And Duke has just had, they're 9-3, but man, they've had some lucky wins. If you go back and look at some of the ways they won a couple of those games, it's like, it feels like their record is way better than they actually are. So I'm leaning Ole Miss here.
Yeah, I was looking at Duke's schedule. A close win over Wake Forest, a close win over Virginia Tech, beat NC State by 10, lost by 22 to Miami, a 1 point loss to SMU, which was like probably the game of the year for them. Barely beat a terrible Florida State team, lost to Georgia Tech, beat a bad North Carolina team by 1. One of their better wins beating UConn, who just won a bowl game today, 26-21 earlier in the year. Barely beat a bad Northwestern team. So like, you're right. It's just like they're like 9-3, but it's like, it's a real ugly 9-3. Mississippi just missed the playoffs 14. This is a game I probably should just absolutely hammer Mississippi and not even think about it. I should probably hammer Ole Miss. Jerry says he likes Ole Miss at -14. I tell you what, I think I'm going to end up 2-team parlaying it or 3-team parlay and putting Ole Miss at 14 just in case, and then and going heavy on it. But I just can't see. I feel like I got to get on that game earlier rather than later. I think that number is going to go way up. I think everybody's going to start hammering Ole Miss, and that number's going to get closer to 20. Once everybody realizes these playoff games are over, and that game's after the playoff games, everybody's going to try to catch up their money, and everybody's going to put everything on Ole Miss on the next day. So I'm on Ole Miss. I probably going to get on that sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, I know we missed it because they're not on DraftKings in Illinois, but what do you think about Illinois?
Oh, we did skip the Illinois game. Thank you for bringing that up, Benny. That actually was on my list to talk about. I have it on the bowl game list down here. I always forget that they don't have it on the thing because we are in Illinois, so they would say Illinois right now. Thank you for bringing that. 10.5 point dog to South Carolina. Over unders 49.5. Real interesting matches. Citrus Bowl down in Florida. There is a ton of Illinois fans that live in Florida. And I know a ton that are planning to go. There's going to be a lot of Illinois fans at this game, folks. A lot of Illinois fans. Yeah. And again, we're talking about a 9-3 Illinois team. The amount of times they've won 10 games in the program's history is slim. I mean, real slim. You could count it on one hand the time they've won double-digit games in a season. They're going to be going all out. As far as I know, everyone but Pat Bryant, their leading receivers, playing in this game, he's opted out, which kind of frustrates me, to be honest with you. I like Pat Bryant a lot. I think he's going to have a shot to make an NFL team, but he's not a first-round pick, and he's probably not a second-round pick. So you're opting out when you're maybe a third or fourth-round pick. That, to me, doesn't make much sense. I really wish, because he's been one of my favorite players for the Illini the last couple of years. Yeah. He's just had a really good year. 54 catches, 984 yards, 10 touchdowns, almost 1,000-yard season. Kind of disappointed he's not playing. But other than that, everybody else is supposed to be in for the Illini. And they're taking on South Carolina, who just barely
ended the season. Awesome.
Barely missed the playoffs. I mean, they were right there. I think they were basically them and Alabama were the last two teams out.
Yeah, their quarterback's a handful too, man.
Lenora Sellers is a beast.
Yeah. So I'm a little nervous, to be honest. I think if South Carolina plays everybody, and I don't see why they wouldn't. And I'm not saying Illinois can't hang around, but man, South Carolina, the way they ended the season, and Sellers and that running back, it's a lot to handle, So I'm just hoping we can hang around. If we get down a lot early, it could be tough to make a comeback on them. So we'll see.
Yeah, South Carolina finished the year winning 6 straight to finish it off. They lost their biggest loss of the year was the Ole Miss 27-3. They lost to Alabama by 2 in a game they probably should have won, lost 27-25. Then they went on a tear, crushed Oklahoma, crushed Texas A&M, crushed Vanderbilt, all ranked, by the way. Beat Missouri by 4 at the end of the game. Now, Missouri wins that game. We're talking about maybe Missouri in the playoffs at 10-2 if Missouri wins that game. So South Carolina beats them 34-30 on the last play, like basically in the last minute. They crush Wofford, and then they go and take out Clemson, who made the playoffs and won the ACC 17-14. So, I mean, they're on a run. This one's a toughie for me. God, I feel like I would have to push it up. Like, this is if it gets to 11, do I take Illinois in a teaser at plus 17? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like I want Illinois to play tough. I want to win that game, but man, South Carolina's look so good. Jerry says, give me the Gamecocks at minus 10. I think that's probably the smart money, to be honest with you.
It probably is. Yeah.
I'm probably going to sprinkle a little on the Illini just because you got to, right? You got to as an Illinois fan. You know, we're right down the road from University of Illinois, so I probably sprinkle a little bit on the Illini if I can. But South Carolina, that's probably the smart money is taking them at minus 10.
Yeah, I think so too. But I mean, you never know. We've had a really good for Illinois anyway. Illinois has had a really good offensive season, so. I mean, we can throw the ball around. We've got some good running backs. So we might be able to hang in there with them, put up some points. We'll see. But, yeah, I'm just worried that South Carolina just plays a different level of competition, or at least they did this year. I mean, Illinois really, besides Oregon, didn't have the toughest schedule. So we'll see. But, yeah, probably South Carolina minus 10 is probably the way to go.
Yeah, it's probably a smart bet. We got 3 other bowl games we're going to jump into real quick here before we get into the playoff talk to finish out the show. We've got North Texas 6-6 against Texas State 7-5. Texas State a whopping 14-point favored, over under 63.5. The question here is Texas State, North Texas quarterback Chandler Morris, I think, has entered the portal. I need to check that. I'm pretty sure he's not playing in this game. I think their leading receiver, DT Sheffield, I think he's also not playing this game. He's entered the portal. This one, I think, is just one of those situations where all the Texas State guys are playing and a ton of the North Texas guys aren't. The money is going huge on Texas State right now. I'm probably avoiding this game. It makes me nervous if I'm taking it, but I'm taking Texas State. But 14 seems like a lot, especially when the over/under 63. You're expecting both teams to put up a ton of points, and if the quarterback for North Texas isn't playing, I'm not 100% sure they're going to put up that many points. So that one's that's another game that, as it gets closer to game time, I might have to do slight more research on it. Texas State obviously looks like the call right now, but I don't know who's left in that depleted North Texas team. Yeah,
no, I know it. I'm with you, and I think that's why the line is what it is. But I'm probably not playing, and I'm probably not going to make a bet in this one. I say that, and then Texas State will probably end up winning by 4 scores or something, but.
Here's the thing is why I'm leaning Texas.
That is a lot of points.
A bunch of the North Texas.
It's like,
yeah. Here's the thing is I just North Texas is losing a bunch of guys. Texas State has been pretty tough most of the year. North Texas just absolutely fell apart at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Absolutely fell apart. They lost their last 5 games in a row, and the only reason they made a bowl game was they beat a bad Temple team 24-17 in the finale.
Yeah.
To get to 7-5. The more I'm looking at the stats here, the more I'm looking at the stuff, I'm like, man, Texas State is starting to look like a better call to finish out the year. Just to break it down here for you, North Texas lost to Memphis 52-44, lost to Tulane 45-37, Army 14-3, UTSA 48-27, East Carolina 40-28 before finally beating Temple 24-17. Earlier in the year, they beat a bad Tulsa team, Florida Atlantic, who was not good this year, a bad Wyoming team, got crushed by Texas Tech, and then beat South Alabama, who got much better by the end of the year, and Stephen Edhausen. Man, the more I look at this,
play each other. I could have swore they played each other once.
They did not. They did not play each other this year. The more I'm looking at that, the more I'm leaning Texas State. I think North Texas is. I just am so nervous. Jerry says I'm taking North Texas plus 17, but he says yikes. I agree with you.
I don't know, man. It could just be a shoot. Neither team could play any defense either, so it could just be a shootout. We'll see.
I mean, the other one we got there on the Friday slate after New Year's is Minnesota minus 7.5 against Virginia Tech plus 7.5. I like Minnesota in this game. Darius Taylor, I've been talking about him for a while at running back. He right now is my RB1 in the 2026 class. I think he's an absolute stud. I'm moving this line a little bit. I think this could be a good game. I just think Minnesota is played so tough, so many teams good this year. I like them at -6. If I could get it under 7, I want it under 7. But I like Minnesota in this game. Even if I had to take it at right at 7, I would do it. But if you went money line parlay with a bunch of them and you took them at -298, I wouldn't mind that either. Virginia Tech has not really impressed me this year. They've struggled a bit. Their main guys have not played as well, and they've had injuries here at the end of the year. I like the Golden Gophers in this game. I think they're tough, and PJ Fleck, he's one of those coaches that, like, again, Minnesota doesn't see bowl games all the time. He's going to have this team fired up and ready to play. I like Minnesota.
Yeah, I agree. I like Minnesota. Only thing makes me nervous is it could be a very low scoring game, and if you're trying to cover that 7.5, which isn't a whole lot, but in a low scoring game, every point matters. So, but I'm with you. I've just not seen much out of Virginia Tech, man. They're just not one of those teams that scares you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they're just slightly disappointing. They've got some talent on that team, but not everybody's played kind of up to par. Their running back, their best player, really dealing. Tootin, he had a monster year, over 1,100 yards, 15 TDs. He had a bunch of injuries at the end of the year he was fighting through. Yeah. Don't know his health. Kyron Drones is a guy, just super disappointing year. 1,500 yards, 10 touchdowns, 6 INTs. He was like a dark horse Heisman candidate
going into the season
to start the year.
Texas. Yeah.
Then he just did not look good. Brosmer has been really solid for Minnesota, over 2,600 yards passing, 17 TDs. Like I said, Darius Taylor, 873, 9 touchdowns this year. It's tough. I could see taking the under in this game as well. Benny, I could, like you said, I can see this being a low scoring, close game. I really could. Is the under, they've gone under this number was the total 42.5. They've been right around this total as far as Minnesota goes for the last 4 weeks or so of the season. So it'd be interesting there. Like I said, Virginia Tech, they beat Virginia. They lost to Duke, lost to Clemson, lost to Syracuse, beat Georgia Tech. So they've got some decent wins in there. Minnesota just pounded Wisconsin last game of the year, lost by 1 point to Penn State, almost upset Penn State. A very disappointing loss at Rutgers in a game I thought they should have won. And Illinois, I mean, a huge 25-17 win at Illinois to knock Illinois off from being 10-2. So, I mean, that was a nice win there. I'm on the Gophers, but I'm on the under, or like I said, I got to move this to 6. I can't take over a touchdown. To me, that seems too much.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'll go with the Gophers here.
And the final game we'll talk about before we jump into the playoffs here to enter the show is Liberty on January 4th to kind of finish out the year for us. Buffalo -2.5 at Liberty, against Liberty. Saturday, January 4th game, 10 a.m. Over-unders 51. I don't know if I'm going to put any money on this game, but if I do, I'm jumping on Buffalo. Liberty's quarterback has already transferred. He's headed to Colorado next year. So they're going to be without him. They've struggled a bit this year. So to me, if I'm going anywhere, I'm probably jumping on Buffalo. If Kellen Salter was playing for Liberty, I would be on Liberty in this game. But with him out of the picture at QB, I think Buffalo's the call in this game. Benny, I think you're still on mute, bud.
Oh, sorry about that.
Oh, there we go. Yep, no problem.
Buffalo. Buffalo, it's still probably going to be a game. But even without him playing, but Buffalo is, I don't know, man. They're just one of those hard-nosed teams. They always play teams to the wire, it seems like, no matter what. And it'll probably be a pretty close game. So I'm with you, though. I think if I'm leaning one way or the other, I'm probably going to roll with Buffalo. I've had pretty good luck with them in the past, so I don't know if that's just been random luck or if they just seem to play well in the times I pick them. But yeah, I think if I was going to do something here, it'd probably be Buffalo.
Yeah. All right. So that's going to do it for the bowl games. Let's jump in to the playoff games now here. First game is Penn State minus 11 right now, over under 53 at Boise State. So they got to go on the road to Boise State. That makes it a little more interesting. At least they're not a SEC school. This one, Benny, before I get into my thoughts on this, what do you think? This is the for everyone who's listening or watching, this is a New Year's Eve game. So this is the night game, Boise State New Year's Eve game. The other 3 playoff games are all on New Year's Day. So this is the first one of the mix. So that they were going there. Jerry, before we jump into this, he says he's going 7.5 on Virginia Tech and the Buffaloes minus 2.5. Like I said, if that number stays high, I could see myself taking Virginia Tech just because it could be a close game. I think Minnesota wins that game. But the point spread, like you guys said, has me a little nervous there. That's a pretty high point spread for a game. I think it's going to be fairly close, but I like Minnesota to win. Benny, what are your thoughts on Penn State, Boise State?
Well, I mean, prior to last week, I would have probably said, if you're going to give me Boise and 10.5, I probably would have been wanting to take the 10.5. But I thought that about all these games last week. I
know it felt like we were on all the dogs. We thought like, oh man, we're on all the dogs. I like the points. We're going to get covers, and we couldn't cover anything last week.
They were blowouts, and I remember thinking, well, I even said something I think in our last podcast where I was like, man, all these spreads are over a touchdown. Like the Vegas really thinks every one of these games could be more than a touchdown. They were right. I mean, every game was they were blowouts. So now I don't know. And after seeing Penn State absolutely dominate SMU the way they did, and I get it, they were at home. That makes a big difference. You're playing at home against a Texas team in the cold, all your fans in front of you. That is a huge difference in college football than playing, on a neutral field. Where is this game? I better look at that.
This game's at Boise State.
Oh, it is. Okay, so.
No, sorry, I lied. Sorry about that. The first round games were at home. These games are now at neutral sites. Yeah. So this one's in Arizona at Glendale, Arizona at State Farm Stadium there where the Arizona Cardinals play. Thank you, Benny, for pointing that out. I misspoke when I said that earlier that the game was at Boise State. Only the first round games were home games. These now quarterfinal games are all mixed in bowl games. So prior bowl games here. So
I don't know, man. I think there shouldn't be obviously any weather situation. Boise is more of a run first team, obviously, with Ginty. They can throw it around. They hung around with Oregon. I know it was like the second game of the season, so it's hard to like go back that far. I mean, these are completely different teams at this point. Man, I like to think Boise can hang around and be within 10 points, but the way Penn State handled business last week, I'm stumped on this one. I think I'll play probably Boise and take the 10.5 just because that's probably betting more with my heart than I am, with real numbers and looking at this as a real handicap. But I think I'll probably really keep my streak of betting these dogs and losing alive and go with Boise State.
I think Penn State wins this game, but for some reason, I think Boise State's going to be in it. I kind of like the under 52.5, to be honest with you. Other than the Oregon game, where both these teams, when they played Oregon, the score was super high. But outside of those games, a lot of these games for both these teams have been like in the 50s or under. So this one's like right there for me. I'm kind of leaning the under in this game. I feel like they're going to be run heavy for Boise State. I think Penn State is going to try to run the ball pretty good amount. I like Drew Lars been playing well. I like him. I think he's the difference maker at QB.
Yeah, he has been playing well. I mean, there's no doubt about it.
I like Alar a lot. The 11, it's like, I'm with you, Benny. I want to take Boise State because I think it's going to be a close game, but then it scares me.
I want it to be a close game, but I could also see Penn State winning by 3 scores.
Yeah. So 53 is where I'm at. People forget Boise State played Oregon earlier in the year and it was a 3-point game and Boise State was winning a lot of that game. So they're right in the mix. I mean, they played Oregon tough the same way Penn State played them tough. I really want to take Boise State to cover. I'm interested. So Jerry says Penn State -11. He can see a lot of bets coming in on Boise. So I'm the same way. I'm like, I kind of want to wait and see if like the line goes up higher, but I kind of feel like people are going to jump on Boise just because of the GT factor and everything else. I'm probably taking the under in this one, but I want to take Boise State. But it's like, is this a teaser where I take Boise State +17? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Do I put it in a teaser and hope they just keep it like somewhat in the game? But I do. If I'm betting anything, if I'm going heavier money, I'm betting the under in this one.
Right. And I probably shouldn't. I probably should just bet Penn State. Penn State's overall the better team. They have better talent across the board. Like I said, it's a neutral. It's in Arizona. The weather's not going to be any factor. And Penn State's been throwing the ball well lately, so that's a huge advantage if they're not going to be able to, So I mean, like
if
I said,
this game was at Boise, I would feel a lot better about it. You know what I mean?
For sure.
But it's
on the blue turf,
Arizona,
mountains and the fans. It would be a completely different deal. But I don't know, man. I just can't stand Penn State, and so like I said, I'm just all with my heart here on this one. Sorry.
No problem. Let's jump onto the first game on New Year's Day. Texas, Arizona State. So they're making sure everybody doesn't get too hung the night before and wakes up because we have playoff games. Texas -13 against Arizona State. Over under, and this one's 51.5. Like I said, I was all over Clemson last week. I thought they were going to keep it close with Texas. I thought they were going to be right in that game. I thought they had a good shot to upset in that one. And Texas played well. They ended up pulling away, winning by 14. They covered. It was 13.5, depending on when you got the game. So they ended up covering that game, even though I thought Clemson would. I think I got Clemson at 14.5, so I did get the cover there. What do you think? Does Arizona State have enough to stay in this game, or are they in trouble? Again, this one's in Atlanta, so it's a farther haul for Arizona, which is kind of funny. Is like they not playing in Arizona and Glendale, even though they were the bye. They're gonna have to work on this bye week stuff. Like you get the bye, which was great for you, but then you don't get a home game. Like that kind of sucks. And again, you're not necessarily getting the game closest to you. This game is Texas. Texas is closer to Georgia. This one's going to be in Atlanta at the Mercedes Dome where the Falcons play. To me, that screams Texas. That just helps out Texas a ton. I think Texas is finally getting it rolling. I like Texas in this one. The point total is a ton at 13, but they covered last week as well. I think Texas wins this game, but I am really debating on the point spread. What do you think, Benny?
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I mean, Texas, they really beat Clemson worse than the scoreboard at the end.
I mean, they've looked really good lately. Yeah.
So I think Texas wins this game, and I think they should cover. But, Arizona State finished the season out of their minds. I mean, they've been waiting, they're sitting there. Like you said, it's really, if anything, the location favors Texas. Texas, bigger fan base as well. They're probably going to show out a little bit more in this game, I would think, their fan base. So I definitely lean Texas here. I think they should beat Arizona. As much as I like Arizona State and I like Scatterboo and everything that they did this season, it was a great season for them. I just think Texas is going to be too much, man. I think they're going to pull away. They probably cover too, I think.
Yeah, Jerry says -13, too much talent for Texas. I agree. I'd like to see him in this one, but I think Texas. I'm slowly coming around to Texas. I have not been a Texas believer all year, but they're getting the matchups. They're lucking out with these matchups. I think they end up. I can see this game being close early, honestly, and then Texas, turning it up and just too much for them late in the game. So I lean with you guys there. I'm on Texas too. I think I'm taking them before it gets to 14. I like him at the 13 points. Last two games here for us to kind of finish off the show. Ohio State minus 2.5 against Oregon in the rematch. The over-under is 55. And then the Notre Dame Georgia game, Georgia 1.5 point favorite, over-under 44.5. Rematch Big Ten. Oregon, Ohio State. Benny, what do you think? Oregon gets it done again on a neutral site, or does Ohio State get the revenge? They're a 2.5 point favorite right now.
Ooh, man. I'm going to lean Oregon only because of quarterback play. And I think Ohio State is just as good. I mean, their defense is awesome. So it definitely can go either way. It's definitely one of those games that I can see a bunch of different outcomes. But I just personally, I'm gonna lean Oregon. So I know there's not a lot going into that other than I just think at the end of the day, if it's a 3-point game and Oregon has a chance to go down the field and score, I like their chances a little bit better than Ohio State.
I am leaning Ohio State in this one. I think they get the rematch. This is in Pasadena at the Rose Bowl.
Yeah.
So a huge one here. Old Big Ten, Pac-10 rivalry, even though they're both in the Big Ten now. Old school, Ohio State and Oregon. So I think Ohio State, they played at the Rose Bowl plenty of times. I think they're going to feel comfortable there. Obviously, you think on the West Coast it'd be a bigger favorite to Oregon, but Ohio State travels so well. I think Ohio State gets it done. I don't know why. I have a feeling just losing at Oregon in the way they did earlier this year, I think they're going to learn. I think quarterback play, to me, is the difference maker. I think Gabriel's better than Will Howard, and it just depends on how well does Howard play. I just think Ohio State's defense is really freaking good.
Yeah, it's good.
It's really good, and both these teams could score points. So it's going to be a close one to me. I tell you what, for Oregon being undefeated and number one pretty much most of the year, they're like the one team I just can't wrap my head around how they keep winning. They've had a lot of just games where they've looked awful this year, and they still have gotten by. But then they looked really good against Penn State. That was a hell of a Big Ten championship game. They looked good in that game against Ohio State earlier this year. Was a hell of a game. But then I get in there and I see the 10-point win against Idaho. I'm like, ugh. They struggle a little bit with UCLA. They hammered Illinois, but then they like pretty well at Michigan, but then they won by 3 at Wisconsin. It's just they've just kind of been all over the place this year. I think Dan Lanning's a really good coach. I think Oregon is really tough. To tell you the truth, I almost think whoever wins this game wins the national title. I kind of feel like whoever wins this one gets it. I like Ohio State in this one. I'm going to take Ohio State, though. I think this is going to be a really good game. I'm in on that. Jerry says he's going Ohio State and Georgia, taking them both to cover. Yeah. All right, Jerry, I like you there. Let's jump in that. What do you think? Georgia minus 1.5. Looks like Carson Beck, their quarterback, is out for the playoffs. He's not going to play. He declared for the NFL draft today, so he's out. He's going to get healthy, get ready to go into the draft. So they're going with the backup Stockton. But again, we're also talking about Georgia. So when we talk about their backups, we're still talking 4 or 5-star guys at every position. So it's not like we're just falling off to a walk-on. Like, this is Georgia still. So what do you think? Does Notre Dame, who looked really good in the first round, a late comeback there by Indiana, but Notre Dame, what do you think in this one?
Of all 4 of these games, I like Georgia. I'm the most confident. This would be my biggest one for sure. I just think Notre Dame has not been on the field with a team like Georgia all year. And like you just said, I don't care who they're playing at quarterback. I don't think Notre Dame's going to move the ball at all. And I think Georgia is going to be just too much, man. They're just going to be too much. And I don't know anything about this kid that other than when he came in the end of the game when the other guy got hurt, when Beck got hurt. he looked good. So, and like you said, he's probably a 5-star kid. He's
He is.
probably a
Gunnar
really good
Stockton.
quarterback.
He's an absolute stud.
Yeah.
So
So that doesn't really
he's a
scare me.
stud.
Yeah.
So
I just think,
and Georgia pounds the rock, right? Like
yeah.
we know they're going to lean on the run game. If Etienne, who came back from injury, had a really good game, his last game when he played Texas, 94 yards, 2 touchdowns. So I mean, he missed quite a bit of time this year, but when he played, he was really good. But you also have Nate Frazier in there. I mean, they're loaded with guys.
Yeah.
Be really interesting. Yeah, to me, man, this just says defensive battle
Yeah.
all over it. I'm thinking I'm leaning Georgia, but I'm also leaning the under in this. I know it's low already at 20 at 44.5. So you're looking at like a 1.5 point spread. You're looking at like a 23-21 game, 24-20 game, right in that, right in that range.
Yeah.
But that kind of feels like what it should be at.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't it? I mean, Georgia hasn't scored. I mean, they had the huge 44-42 game against Georgia Tech, which was like out of nowhere wild that game happened the way it did. But then they beat Texas 22-19 in a low scoring game. I just think this is going to be low scoring. I don't think Notre Dame is going to be able to throw on them a lot. I think they're going to just have to keep running the ball. And so even though Notre Dame has put up some pretty good point totals this year, I just, like you said, I don't think they've seen any kind of defense remotely on the page of Georgia. So I like the under in this one. If I had to do it, I'd probably lean Georgia, take the points to 1.5, and I'd lean the under 45 at 44.5.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, to me, the only way Georgia screws this up is if they turn the ball over a bunch.
Yep.
If the backup comes in and he just, isn't really ready to go and make some bad decisions and they turn the ball over, okay, Notre Dame could pull it off. Otherwise, in my mind, I just can't see it. So, but
I think it'd have to be turnovers and really low scoring, and Notre Dame wins like just an absolute grinder. Like 16-13 with some field goals. You know what I mean? It's just everybody's just running the ball. Nothing breaks out, and they got to get a defensive turnover that sets up a score. That's how I see Notre Dame winning this game. But Georgia, you're just talking about, okay, that guy's out. All right, bring in the next 5-star. Like these guys are talent everywhere. So and Notre Dame's got plenty of talent too. The biggest issue for me is I just don't know if Notre Dame has enough offense. I love Jeremiah Love. He's awesome, my RB2 right now in next year's draft class. Again, I talked about Darius Taylor from Minnesota being my RB1. Love is my RB2 in next year's draft class, so I love him. I just don't know if they have enough on offense besides him to get it done. I don't know if their wide receivers are good enough. And Riley Leonard's been solid for Notre Dame, but he hasn't been spectacular, especially throwing the football.
Yeah. No, he's come on a little bit later in the season throwing the ball, I think he's 100% healthy now and has been for the last 3 or 4 weeks, which has made them a way better team. But even all that said, man, I just don't see them being able to do much, in Georgia, like you said, they're just these kids that come in that are also 5-stars, they're chomping at the bit, man. They're pumped about getting a chance to play. They know the caliber of athlete they are. So you throw them in there and you're going to get production. So I just don't see Georgia, like I said, unless there's some crazy turnovers. I don't see Notre Dame being able to do it.
Yeah. So. Jerry is loving it. He says he'd put 3 units on Georgia minus 1.5. I love the confidence, Jerry. That's what we want to hear. Boom. I love it. He's making me feel good about getting on it now. Now I like it even more. All right, Benny, coming to the end of the show here. We're just past the 6 o'clock hour here Central Time. Do you have a Plums bet? You got your Plums bet for this week?
Hell, I'm going to roll with Georgia. That was kind of my bet of the week. So that's what I'm going to do. Georgia minus 1.5. Go with it. Go Dogs. We'll see. Hopefully that goes.
I like it. So that's Benny's filled in my Plums bet of the week. He's taking Georgia -1.5 in that one. I told you guys earlier my JT Parlay play of the day for the Colorado game. I will give that to you again real quick in case you missed it at the beginning of the show. Same game parlay. I'm taking Colorado money line, Colorado alternate total 44.5 over Shadur Sanders 300 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns. Travis Hunter 80 yards receiving and a touchdown. LeJonte Wester 60 yards plus receiving. Will Shepard 20 plus yard reception. And that is my JT Parlay play of the day, plus 762 on FanDuel when I put that one in. So you can jump on that one for tonight. My huge win, I'm taking Colorado. We talked about it earlier in the show. Colorado is my JT Parlay play. That's my play of the day. If you're not just taking a parlay, I like Colorado a lot. I'm on Army as well at -13.5. We talked about that earlier in the show. And if I'm going to put in a parlay for the playoffs, my JT Parlay play for the playoffs, Benny, I think I'm on Georgia -1.5. I like where your guys' heads out on that one. I think I'm also, that Penn State game's got, I want to take the points. I want to take the points. I think I'm going to take Ohio State -2.5 on there. I like Ohio State, the upset. I like Georgia at the -1.5. I think Texas covers the 13.
Yeah,
I like that. And part of me really wants to take the under in this Boise State Penn State game.
Yeah.
I just think Boise State is going to have to run the ball, and I just don't think they're going to be able to put up a ton of points. I'm going to take the under in that game. So I'm taking the under Boise State. I'm taking Texas -13. I'm taking Ohio State -2.5, and I'm taking Georgia -0.5. If you're on DraftKings right now, that is at plus 1,228. Plus 1,228. That is my playoff JT Parlay play of the day. Benny, anything else you got for the people before we take off in this one?
I don't think so, man. I love your Colorado parlay. I'm gonna tail that, and we're gonna have some fun watching that one tonight. So,
I think we got about 15 minutes of game time. I'm already on them in a couple parlays. I think I'm gonna put in a big Colorado straight up -3 bet in this one. I don't know. I got a good feeling about the Buffs tonight. I got my sweatshirt on. I got my niece coming over to watch the game. Everything's aligning. Everything's aligning. We're gonna go big on Colorado tonight. So hey, that's gonna do it for us. We will not have a show next week during the week. This was kind of our pre-show for all of next week, but we will be back for the Final Four and the championship here on Fantasy and Frames. You've been listening to The Stew with JT Brew. We appreciate it. You can follow me at JT Orange, follow Ben at Ben Dyer 8. And as always, may all your bets hit and the trading never quit. We'll check you next time on The Stew with JT Brew on Fantasy and Frames. Thanks, guys.
You up on trades and wire moves, you ain't designed to lose. Find you jumping over seemingly nothing, racking up points, makes the game a little more fun to watch. Can drop release, we started with the mock draft and now we making a mockery of the leaderboard. Quite obviously not a scrub, so start an institute, make evaluations like a commissioner do. It's to the point your wife make you watch in a different room. Update your roster and pick and choose when you get some news. Not much that we enjoy more than sifting through through new statistics to make it to our end zones through different routes. Universities, institutes down to homies who click in groups. I introduce you to The Stew with JT Brew.